It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant Prime.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Welcome to Friday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. So glad you could join us today for another 1 hour of Big Blue Talk. I am Paul Dottino. He's Matt Citak. And today's question, and I give this to you a little earlier than I usually would, only because I want you to think about it. Look at the Giants' depth chart. And as we now open the month of May, I'd like to know, is there a particular position, a particular unit, positional room that you'd like to add to? Now, there will be some undrafted rookie free agents coming in. We know about the lists that have been reported, but as we've told you 100 times, maybe even 1,000 times, until those guys take their physicals and sign their contracts, number one, we cannot talk about them. Number two, they're not officially Giants. Okay? So let's get that off the table. Maybe the reported list does include a position that you're really anxious to add to, and that's fine. We can't talk about those names, though, until those guys are signed. Now, having said that, you can always catch this show on the archive at giants.com/podcast, your favorite podcast platforms everywhere, and the Giants mobile app. 201-939-4513. And as a reminder, this is the Giants Podcast Studio. It's presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. And we are so glad, again, that you could join us this afternoon. So, Matt, you know, we had discussed going into the draft for months between free agency and then the selection process, the kinds of guys the Giants should be looking for, the positions they should be looking for, the kinds of players they should be looking for. And the truth of the matter is, fellas and ladies out there, I think the Giants have pretty much checked all the boxes in terms of places that were really thin. Now, there's always room for improvement. I'm not going to sit here and tell everybody, neither will you, that this team is ready to go week one and they're going to the Super Bowl. We're not telling people that. Okay. But as you look at this roster realistically and you determine the positions where you'd like some more competition or some more depth, in fact, I'm going to let you go first. You can certainly identify one of the positional rooms that you would be like, all right, you know, if they could add this kind of player or maybe two of this kind of player, you know, maybe there's somebody that kind of ticks off your fancy. You don't have to give us names of players. You can just tell us the room and what component you'd like to add to the room. I'm going to let you go first.
Okay. For me, I feel like there's, I don't know, one position came to mind right away as soon as you presented me this question. Just want to reiterate, as you said, I don't think there's any position now following the draft class that is a need to add. Again, as you said, I'm not saying this team's ready to go out, win a Super Bowl tomorrow, but there's no glaring hole or any position where I'm like, they need to, have to add another body. I think the draft class kind of accomplished that with a couple of the positions that I might have thought that about, this time 10 days ago. That being said, the position that I'm thinking, and I did think that the Giants would add a player at this position, I was thinking day 3 of the draft would be wide receiver.
Me too.
We agree. Wow.
We agree, but do we agree on the same type of component that you'd like to put in the room?
I guess
we may not.
We'll have to find out. I know you obviously like your skyscrapers.
I do.
But I do think that there is a player that the Giants already signed this offseason that kind of fits that skyscraper role, and that would be Lil Jordan Humphrey.
From Denver.
He's that 6'4", 225, big-bodied receiver. So I don't really think that's the type of receiver the Giants need. Again, I shouldn't say need. Could afford to add. So I'm going to go instead and say sort of like that shifty slot receiver. Because outside of Wan'Dale Robinson, there's no one else really on the roster that fits that build of a wide receiver. Now, again, the undrafted guys that may or may not be coming in are signing over the next week or so, maybe one of those guys fits that, build for a receiver a little bit more. But right now, the guys that are actually signed to the roster, Wan'Dell's really the only one. And obviously, Wan'Dell is going to be the starting, slot receiver for the Giants this season. But he doesn't really have any competition. You look back at the last couple of years, whether it was bringing in, Cole Beasley, bringing in Jamison Crowder, like there were guys that the Giants brought in to at least not only compete with Wan'Dell, but obviously when you go through these OTAs, when you go through training camp, you can't have Wan'Dell taking every single snap.
Right.
In the slot. You need to have guys that can come in and, take some of the load off of him and also compete. Because as we know, injuries happen. And if, God forbid, if Wan'Dell were to suffer some sort of injury and miss some time during training camp, you would need someone to then step into the quote unquote starting role. So that would be the type of receiver I would be looking at, the position and the type of receiver that I would be looking at.
Okay, so Montrell Washington does not factor into your equation at all.
I mean, I guess, but the Giants signed him to a futures deal right after the Super Bowl. He is on the team, but it's not someone that has, I guess, a long proven track record. I would want to bring in someone more of a veteran slot receiver that has experience under their belt.
So you're not even thinking about the undrafted class. You want to go get a guy who's got a resume in this league.
Yeah,
okay, that's fair.
On the same lines of the Cole Beasleys and Jamison Crowder. Obviously, those pickups didn't necessarily work out for the Giants, but that's the type of receiver I would be thinking of bringing in between now and the start of training camp.
And I understand that because, we've talked in the last few months about the Giants' need to enhance the depth at corner. They did wind up getting one in Black in the 7th round. Mm-hmm. And Joe Shane has told us they believe he can compete for defensive snaps. So I kind of think I wouldn't mind grabbing a veteran corner at some point at the end of the summer.
That would have been my other position.
As somebody who could kind of just enhance the depth as a safety net, if you will. But my number one thought is wide receiver. But here's the difference, I think, where you and I are going to be on a different page here. Because also you could use a big slot too, if you wanted to. Yeah. You could do that. And I think the Giants probably feel that way about their tight ends. I think they think their tight ends as flex tight ends could wind up doing some big slot stuff. So I don't know if it's necessarily that important to find a backup to Wan'Dell, but I think you have a valid point, and if that's the direction they want to go in, it certainly has merit.
I even have a name I would throw out there as a. You don't want to throw names? All right.
I don't know that we. Well, I don't know that we should throw out names.
Okay. We'll skip the name.
All right. Now, I'll give you my want for the wide receiver room, and corner is 1A. My want for the wide receiver room, not necessarily a skyscraper, because you're right, they did pick up a skyscraper, and Russell Wilson went out of his way to mention him when he got here.
Yep. Which
kind of makes me feel like he thinks something about Humphrey, and he just might stick. I'm thinking a speedster. And it doesn't have to be a slot guy. It could be a guy who's 6'1". I don't care exactly how tall he is. But they've got the big guy in Humphrey. They've got some height with the tight end room. So as much as I do like skyscrapers, I'm also thinking that Bryce Ford Wheaton can also help out potentially in the wide receiver room. So they've got two guys with Humphrey and Ford Wheaton who give them some of that skyscraper aspect. I don't think it's such a bad idea if they can find somebody out there who's got some good play speed. I'm not talking about 40 time. We know 40 times can be deceiving. I'd like to see maybe another guy in the room, and it may come from the undrafted rookie guys, who has really good play speed that can potentially, put up like 15 yards a catch. And if it means getting some yak yardage, and I know there's a gentleman out there who has been reported to be one of the undrafted rookie free agents who has that kind of number in terms of his catchability. And yes, he apparently did play with one of the Giants' draft choices. So I understand where you're going. And you know what? Maybe he's that guy. But he's not here. Hasn't signed. He's not here. He could be that guy if he passes his physical and he signs. So we're not going to mention names, but certainly, you know what? That might make me feel a little bit better about the receivers room, because I wouldn't mind seeing a little more depth at the speed and yardage after catch category out of the room. Fair?
Fair.
So those are our thoughts. How about yours? 201-939-4513 is our number here on Big Blue Kickoff Live, and we're going to go right to the phones, and let's see who we can call up. Number one, it's going to be Carol in New Jersey. You are first on the show. Hello.
Oh, my God, Paul, I can't believe it. I just love your show. Well,
thank you.
I have a message from Mara.
Okay. We do see John at lunch most days, so what would you like him to know?
Good. Because I know you're well connected, and I love your show. Congratulations to you guys on a wonderful, amazing draft. Tell Shane and Gable, I'm going to be 69 this month, and I'm, finally excited for the Giants. And tell him...
Well, if you're going to be 69, though, you've seen the Super Bowls. It's not like you were too young and don't remember them.
Are you kidding? Eli, and when are you going to have our Eli on your show? I've been begging for that. Please.
I don't know if it's on his schedule, but I'm sure we can check with him.
Can you please, really?
Okay.
I would love it. I miss him so much. I watch all your podcasts. I catch everything. But anyway, getting back to the draft, congratulations to Gable, because I actually do believe, and I know everybody wanted Sanders. I didn't. And I'm kind of like you. I like the tall guys. Get us a huge wide receiver like Plaxico, please. God bless him. I miss those days. But anyway, God bless, and I'm looking forward to Go G-Men. That's it. I'll listen to you on the radio. On my TV.
Thank you, Carol.
Thanks, Carol.
Have a great day, and please do call again. Eli tends to get very busy with a lot of his other business endeavors. I don't know how much time he has to necessarily come on with us.
Would be cool if he did a spot.
Maybe one day.
We'll check with him. We'll see if he's got some spare time. Remember, he's got kids, and he's very involved in terms of their
pop
sports.
in the building, though.
He does occasionally come in. Yeah, he does occasionally come in, among his other business interests. We'll go to CJ in Maryland, and I'm going to leave that one right there.
Hey,
hello, you're next on the show. Hi.
Hey, CJ.
Oh, hey, love you guys. I love all the work you guys did on the draft.
Thank you.
I will put a little disclaimer before I start. The blue Kool-Aid is flowing right after the draft, but am I crazy to think that the Giants are a much better team than national media and everyone is talking? I want to go to when you guys talk about over-unders on Daniel Jones back in the last years. Now we have Russell Wilson. The over-under on Russell Wilson has to start at around 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns. Every Giants team that had over a quarterback with over 3,000 yards and over 25 touchdowns was in the playoffs. So, I don't know. It just seems like we're getting a big jump at quarterback.
I do agree. I think we both agree that the quarterback room is certainly upgraded and pretty significantly from where it was at this time last year. I too have wondered, the Giants have been basically, universally praised for this draft class this year. I have not found one, we do this expert grade the draft class after every draft, and this year more so than in previous years, just about every grade was, A plus, A minus, very good grades, among the best. But then you look at the same outlets putting out their power rankings, and you see that
31,
the best draft class or one of the best draft classes, didn't really impact the Giants in their power rankings, which doesn't exactly add up in my eyes. I don't really get it either.
Well, you know why though? Because they're looking at Dart's value, and he makes the draft class have a grade A, right? Because that's part of it. But he's not going to play this year. He should be a redshirt.
To be honest, though, because I put together this experts grade article for Giants.com. Dart, the pick of Dart, that was not the main reason why the Giants seem to be getting these high grades. It seemed to be even more so the rest of the class and how a lot of the other guys could have an impact right away.
Well, then that does not compute.
Exactly.
See,
that's why I'm saying
I know you have to put that stuff together. I don't waste my time with those things.
Of course, you can't really evaluate a draft class until a couple of years down the road, but nonetheless, that doesn't stop everyone from putting out these grades less than 24 hours after the draft. So yeah, I agree. It doesn't really exactly add up how you can praise the draft class so much and say, oh, most of these guys are going to have an impact right away, but then also say, but we don't think it's going to move the needle at all for the Giants.
That's crazy.
Fully add up.
CJ, it's a much better team. Now, how many wins will that translate into? None of us have any clue exactly what the win number is going to be, but the roster is much better.
Yeah, I honestly think that I'm not seeing the big holes that we've seen on other Giants teams.
Mm-hmm.
We have a defense where we can constantly rotate guys in, and I honestly don't think the defense was the problem last year. You had a lot of guys on the field for a very long time. It's hard to play defense that way.
There's no doubt.
I think a big jump in quarterback where you can have that defensive line really start to attack because we have a lead. Like, I don't know. Maybe
but
CJ, the Kool-Aid is flowing, but
I hear you, and that's
a lot more competitive than people are talking.
I agree with you.
About us flaming out and Jackson Dart coming in at week 6, and I'm like, how does that happen?
Yeah. I agree with what you said about the D, but we cannot ignore the fact that they gave up too many big plays in the secondary, which is why they invested a lot of money in it during free agency. And they have also now invested some capital in getting guys into that front seven. Now, the pass rush was good last year, but the rush defense in the front seven was not.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Giants allocated most of their serious assets this offseason towards boosting the defense and all over the defense, whether it's the defensive front or the secondary. I mean, Joe has said, he said right after the season, I think he said it again at the Combine, that, he genuinely believed that with better quarterback play, the offense would have looked a lot better last year. And then he said, he didn't want to say that the Giants were a quarterback away from all of a sudden being like a, true contender for the Super Bowl, but he did explicitly say, I think with better quarterback play, the offense will be a lot better. And clearly he believed that, because you look at the moves made this offseason, there obviously were some positions at, the offensive line depth was boosted with some of the signings in free agency. But as you said, the pick of Jackson Dart, that's a more long-term thing than necessarily this season. And then I guess Cam Scatterbo, but that's a 4th-round pick. That's not, a day 3 pick isn't exactly what I would call major asset allocation towards the offense.
It's not, but he will have an impact.
Oh, for sure. But my point just being that, Joe kind of put his money where his mouth was by, there were not significant changes made to the offense, even though obviously the offense did struggle last year. But Joe said, I think with better quarterback play, the offense as is will be a lot better.
CJ, you have another thought real quick?
Yeah, I was just thinking, because I love Brian Dable, and I feel like Brian Dable hasn't had the chance to create a Brian Dable offense because he's been limited by the quarterbacks he has. I feel like he's a versatile coach, and he's not like set into one system where it's going to be this, or this. He's going to work off the quarterback he has. But I think Brian Dable has ideas of an offense that he wants to create that he has never had the ability to do. And I'm just saying, I think he might be able to shock people with an actual competent quarterback. He's going to use some of the stuff Russell Wilson is good at. Russell Wilson has a full offseason. He's not injured, no injuries or worries about competition for quarterback play. I just think that I don't want to put a shot against Daniel Jones because I love Daniel Jones, but I feel like he did really limit the offense. And if you're a Giants fan and you watch those games, there are plays where wide receivers are wide open.
Well, let's not go back and rehash all that stuff, CJ. That part of it is pointless. But here's what I will tell you, and thanks for the call. In terms of the defense, they've improved the talent level. In turn, that will help the efficiency because of the rotation that you talked about a couple of minutes ago. They have also improved the special teams, and we discussed this yesterday, which helps tilt the field. They've improved their offense specifically by addressing the quarterback situation and also the running back room. So you put all of these things into an equation and you say this plus this plus this plus this plus this. By the very nature of the game and complementary football, it will make the defense that much better too.
Yeah, the offense being able to sustain drives, give the defense a breather, and actually put up points so the defense isn't always playing from behind. Obviously, that would be a huge boost to the defense alone. And then you add in all the talent that was added to the defensive side of the ball. And again, at all three levels.
I know.
The Giants added defensive tackles. They obviously added Abdul Carter on the edge. Linebacker depth with some of those, special teams guys that are going to get some snaps at linebacker as well. And then obviously the secondary. So there was talent added at every single level of the defense. But just one point that the caller made, just because I just saw this tweet and it's fitting for this conversation.
Yeah.
This past season, Malik Neighbors led the NFL in getting open. ESPN has this metric, open score.
Okay.
He was number 1 in the NFL. He was the first rookie to lead the league in this metric since it was created in 2017.
And this is percentage of routes he got open or amount of space he got open for, separation?
I think percentage of routes that he was able to get open.
Okay.
He led the league, and he had a great season, Malik, obviously, a record-setting season, and I think we can all agree it was with not the most stable play at the quarterback position.
And everybody knew he was the primary target of the offense.
Exactly. So now with what should be some much improved quarterback play, with a healthy offensive line, with all of the young playmakers around Malik, and Malik himself getting another year of experience under their belt, I think we could see the offense take a big jump this year.
And we should not forget the fact that Tyrone Tracy is still a young, budding running back who wasn't converted to running back from receiver until after his couple of years in college.
This is going to be year
Think
3
about that.
as a full-time running back?
Think about that.
Yeah.
He should also get better as a running back the more snaps he gets in year 2. Back to the phones at 201-939-4513. Nick in Virginia, you're next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Hi. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, good to talk to you, too. This is only the second time I'm calling. I've been
Thank
listening
you.
to the show for at least 2 or 3 years. I really appreciate what you guys do, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to – so I had a couple of things. I wanted to give my – I've been listening all week. I don't usually catch the show live, but I've been listening all week with you guys giving, like, the favorite, the sleeper, and the value picks of the draft.
Yep.
So I was going to do that. And then I actually was going to comment positively on the job that Joe Shane has done, or that I think he's done. But as far as the draft picks, so my favorite is I'm going to go easy on this one. It's Abdul Carter, and it's not because of it's not just because of the player he is, but I think it's because I look back to the draft where we didn't take Micah Parsons, and that's one of his comps, right? And then also just knowing that he's one of 2 blue chip players in that draft class. Joe Shane didn't overthink it. Let's take the guy and then come back for the quarterback if we can. So I just love that pick from a just not overthinking it type of standpoint.
Okay.
The sleeper pick, it's got to be Fedoni. I know everyone keeps saying that, but the measurables on this guy, I know he's had the 2 ACLs, but the fact that he was coming out of high school, with a higher grade than Brock Bowers. I mean, if this guy can translate into the NFL, apparently he blocks pretty well too. I haven't watched any of his tape or anything like that. I consume a lot of like podcasts and media that you guys put out. So just from what I've heard, it's like there's potential there, and I think like a lot of people had him as like a day 2, early day 3 pick, and to get him in the 7th is just incredible. So I might surprise you guys with my value pick. So my value pick is Jackson Dart, and this is why. So I'd been saying this myself, and then I listened to a show, and Sean Morash had actually had a kind of like a piggyback take off of what I'm about to say. So if the Giants would have stayed at 32 or 33 or 34, maybe Jackson Dart falls. But you don't want to take that chance. You have the Saints, you have the Browns, you have other teams that need a QB that have done private workouts with him. I know there was all the rumors about the Rams, and then they come out later and say, oh, no, we weren't going to do that. Either way, you don't want to take a chance if that's the guy you have. And for some people that were saying, like, oh, it seemed like more desperate because they tried to trade up, they tried to get Stafford, they tried to trade up and get Cam Ward. But I didn't see where there's a rule where you can't like more than one quarterback in a draft class. So, I mean, obviously Brian Dable identified his guy and went after him. But as far as why I think it's a value, Joe Shane said after day 3, I think it was, with Scadaboo and with Bo, they were both at the top of their list for that pick at 105.
Yes.
So I have zero doubt that if they stayed and picked, and maybe Jackson Dart got to them at 34, maybe he didn't. But if they would have stayed and kept their draft picks, I have no doubt in my mind that they take Scadaboo at 99, and then they take Bo at 105. The fact that Bo...
Probably likely. I think there's a really good chance that would have happened.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's my guess. So you still, because Bo, like, everyone had him as like a top 88, top 90 player. So like the fact that he fell as far as he did, and we still got him. So you're still getting that. So what I was saying was like, okay, so even if you then you have another. So if you did 99 and 105, then you have another dart throw in the 5th round, because I don't think they would have taken Fedoni that early and then Corey Black probably until the 7th like they did. So, but the way Sean Morash put it was like, so it's basically like they traded a 5th rounder and then next year's 3rd to get the quarterback that they've identified as the quarterback of the future. So in that regard, when you look at some other quarterbacks that have been traded up for, like in the early 1st round, giving up future 1st-round picks, if Dart turns, and obviously it remains to be seen, we'll see what happens, but when you look at the guy perform and play, like athletically, I think he was better than Shedeur, and what he does throwing the ball downfield, I think he has a better arm than people are giving him credit for. Like, he seems like he's a stereotypical Daboll guy, and with as renowned as Coach Daboll is in the league for identifying and developing quarterback talent, like, I mean, if this works out, it's a steal, and that's why I think that's a value.
Okay, I don't even need to go through the mathematical permutations that Sean Morash went through. I'll make it real simple for you. No, it's because it's a lot easier than that.
Yeah.
If Jackson Dart becomes a starting quarterback for the New York Giants and is good enough to get a 2nd contract, okay, follow me.
Yeah. Yep.
2 third-round picks for him was a great value. He doesn't even have to lead this team to a Super Bowl. He doesn't even have to go to the Pro Bowl to have been a steal. If he's a starting quarterback and earns a 2nd contract as a starter, that makes this trade a really good trade.
Yeah, at the end of the day, no one, if Jackson Dart works out and he ends up being the starting quarterback for the next decade, no one is ever going to bring up what it cost the Giants to trade up to get him. I mean, you look at some of the other good quarterbacks around the NFL, no one talks about what the Chiefs gave up to move up for Patrick Mahomes. You know, people do bring up what the 49ers gave up for Trey Lance, obviously, because that was the other end of the spectrum, not working out and kind of blowing up in a big way. So there's no value that's too high to move up to get your quarterback if the quarterback ends up working out. Plain and simple. You could give up a 1st-round pick next year, and if Jackson Dart ends up being the quarterback, no one would have blinked an eye down the road.
The beauty of this is that Joe was putting his feet in the ground and decided there's no way I'm getting rid of the 1st third-rounder. I'll trade the 99, but I'm not giving up the other one because he knew the value of the draft was right there in the heart of that beefsteak tomato. And look what he got.
Yeah, and
he
also played the board well because, you know, a lot of people thought the Steelers at 21 could take a quarterback, and there were reports that it may not be Shedeur, it could be Jackson Dart.
Right.
Joe could have traded up to 20, and that deal definitely would have required the 65th pick. And instead, he let the board play out, waited a couple more picks, and was able to then do a deal giving up only 99, obviously with next year's 3rd as well, to go up and get your guy. So Joe really did play the board just about as perfectly as you could.
The one key to all of this, Nick, as you know, and I feel very strongly about this, you don't force a pick. And no matter how many people want to take a quarterback all the time, that's the last position in my mind you should ever force. He did not force it. He got a really good price to go up and get this guy. I was in favor of the trade because the price was so good.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. I love the price too. Like the price as it stands, as it looks, is great. But when you even kind of do the math, it's like, well, they still got the 2 players they were going to get anyway with Scadaboo and Bo. It looks even better. So like, I love the pick.
And of course, Armstrong. Don't forget the fact that they were able to hold on to that 1st third rounder. And get Armstrong.
Alexander.
Alexander.
I was like, wait, did we draft Jesse Armstead?
Armstead. Yeah, we got Armstead. Darius Alexander. They held on to that pick and got him too. You have to kind of
great.
consider that in the permutation.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. No, I was going to say I love, and just in, I don't know if you have much more time, but I was going to say just in general, Joe Shane, the last 2 draft classes for sure. And I think he even said it, like, it seems like the roster is getting to a point where he can draft best player available versus like need picks. But
he had said that.
And I laugh at that though, because it's like, well, like there's a lot of times where that could be the same thing, like one and the same. Like, you know, you have to take. I understand as great as it is like, oh, you know, because if the best player on your board every time it comes around to you is the same position, you're not going to take this like 7 running backs, seven edge rushers.
No, you won't.
Draft. Like, you know, so it's like. There's a little bit of but what I'm saying is I think he's doing a really good job of managing that, you know, since he's got here. And I think it's like for anyone that's kind of as far as like the job he's done previously and all this stuff, like I don't want to go too far in the past, but I've been wanting to call for a while, and I was a big Daniel Jones guy, and I don't think the contract was bad. I think it just didn't work out. I think fiscally it didn't put the team in a bad spot. And if I was a fly on the wall, if I could bet money, I would say that the conversation between Joe Shane and Brian Dable at the end of the 22 season about Daniel was like, listen, he did everything we asked him to do, but we're not sure if he can kind of elevate. Can we build the contract a way so that we can kind of see how it goes? And that's what he did. So after 2 years, unfortunately, it didn't work out. And guys, I was a big DJ fan. I am part of a group of guys. We go to a different away game every year. It's a tradition we've been doing for a long time. And we always buy the tickets in May after the schedule is released. So in 2019, we bought tickets to the Tampa Bay game without knowing that DJ was going to be getting his first start. And so we were there. And that euphoric feeling, winning the game the way they did, almost losing it, but Matt Gay missing the kick, like we went crazy. And it was just such an experience, and it was exciting. Again, it didn't end up working out, but again, that 22 season.
Yeah,
like
I know, Nick. It was fun. It was fun.
Oh, it was.
We're going to let you go. We got some other people on the line, but please call again, okay?
Thanks for taking my call, guys.
And by the way,
thanks, Nick.
Don't just grade Joe Shane this year on his draft. His free agent class was really good, too.
Yeah, I mean, that is what paved the way for being able to just take the best player available in the draft. And Joe spoke about this. And, he actually spoke about how his first 2 drafts, 2022 and 2023, with the state of the roster and the cap situation that the team was in, those 2 drafts, he really did have to kind of take players based on position, which he even said you never want to do that. But given the cap situation and where the roster was, he didn't have a choice. He said earlier this offseason that last year and then heading into this year, which we saw, due to him being able to fix the cap situation, him, Kevin Abrams, everyone in the front office, they were able to then just take the best player available in last year's draft and again in this year's draft. I mean, Abdul Carter, no one would have said edge rusher was a need for the Giants going into this draft, but best player available, you take the best player and you don't think twice about it. Joe's work in free agency, and again, goes back last year. Since he came in, he's been working to get the Giants in a more fluid cap situation, and he's really done a good job. I mean, even this offseason, you look ahead to, next year, I think the Giants have close to I think close to $50 million projected cap space.
A lot of that can change over time.
No,
but I hear what you mean.
I'm just saying right now, it's not like he sacrificed future cap space in order to make moves to help win right now. Like, he kept the Giants in good cap situations moving forward as well.
Look, the best move he made, and the key move that just built the foundation of the house for every single other room to be added onto, was saying, folks, we're not going to force the quarterback at 3. I'm going to go get a couple of quarterbacks. I'll take a couple of swings. And he went and he got 2 veterans. Once he did that, once he got those 2 veterans in free agency, that set up the draft beautifully, because now he did not have to worry about even thinking about a quarterback at number 3. And for some reason, there are hordes of people out there, I don't know how many, but there were certainly chunks of people out there who were dead set against that. Oh, you got to take a quarterback at number 3. And I kept telling you for months, the free agency situation is going to determine how this goes. And he's going to get a veteran quarterback, and you won't have to take one at 3. Joe knew what he was doing, and he told you what he was going to do. He told everybody. Some people didn't want to listen. Arnold in Buffalo. You're next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Hey, Paulie. Hey, man.
Hi.
I
What's
love
up,
y'all
Arnold?
show, man. I'm telling you, I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you must have been talking about me, Paulie, because I'm the one who was saying, hey, we need to trade the number one, get a number one pick. I don't know if you remember that.
There were a lot of calls over the last few months that I was like shaking my head at. So, but it's all good. You know why? Because in reality, there is no right or wrong answer to a bunch of these things. It's about your preference and your opinion. If there's a logical path for whatever that opinion is, if it's based on some fact and some reasonable logic, it's okay to have a difference of opinion. It's perfectly fine. But I thought it was clear from the beginning how Joe was going to play this. He pretty much told everybody. He basically
I didn't think it was possible.
Well,
I didn't think it. I was like, I was panicking. We got to do something. We need a quarterback. I mean, the whole team played great, but the defense. If the offense is going 3-and-out, that's going to weigh heavily on the defense.
Sure.
We need a manager, and he's done that. I mean, I got to tip my hat to him. He's done that. He's done great.
Well, I'm glad you see it that way, and I'm glad you called back. Do you have another point today?
Yeah, my
Please
point
do.
was, what are we going to do? I'm going to just say his name, Bellinger. What are we going to do? We got another tight end. What do you think's going to happen? Because that guy showed some flashes, and I thought he was going to be the guy. And then we got Theo, and he flashed a little bit. Now we're getting another guy. We got to keep Manhurts. What do you think?
I got a theory on this. Or maybe I should let you go first.
No, let's hear your theory.
Okay, I got a theory on this. And I talked to a scout the other day about it. Fedoni might wind up being a redshirt. He missed his first 2 years of college football at Nebraska with the same ACL twice. Okay? It's entirely possible that he's not ready. And I'm talking about playing-wise. I know his injury's fine because he played the last 2 years. But the thought that was expressed to me is maybe Fedoni is a developmental project and maybe he's not going to be ready. Now, I know John talked to one of his coaches at Nebraska, and they said mentally he'll be ready to go. And that may be true. But I see a glut right now at the tight end position. I see Johnson as the starter. I see Bellinger as the number 2. And I still think that Greg Dulcich, who they picked up off the Broncos at the end of last year, and Russell Wilson went out of his way to talk about him. When he came out of UCLA a few years ago, he was a big-time receiving target. And people who graded that draft were like, this guy's going to be a big producer in the passing game. I'm not giving up on Dulcich. I think there's a reason why he's here, and I know that there's a reason why Wilson talked about him because they were teammates in Denver. It wouldn't shock me if they wind up keeping Johnson, Bellinger, and Dulcich. Manhurts as the blocking tight end. They could always wind up using a jumbo package and using one of their backup linemen as a blocking tight end in serious blocking situations where they want to go double tight end, triple tight end, jumbo. You could always use a lineman to be an extra blocking force at tight end. So a guy like Manhurts, who is a blocking tight end, you can find ways to efficiently use your roster by not keeping that roster spot. So that's how I think it could play out. Will it? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I have to disagree with you a little bit here.
Well, you can, but you're wrong. No, go ahead.
I mean, obviously, Theo Johnson is the starting tight end. Obviously, 100%. But when you look at the rest of the depth chart of the position, so with the selection of Thomas Fedoni, there are 5 tight ends under contract. Theo, Bellinger, Dulcich, Manhurts, Fedoni.
Right.
Just drafted Fedoni. He's obviously, they're not cutting him, barring some unforeseen circumstances. So I do believe he'll be on the team. I think
don't ever discount the IR situation, though. You can't.
But as you just mentioned, he was healthy this past year. You can't just throw someone on the IR if they're fully healthy.
It doesn't mean that he can't wind up with a pulled muscle during training camp.
You're right. It is possible. a lot can change between now
Never know.
and the end of training camp.
Never know. A lot of times that happens with late round draft choices in the league.
But to be honest, to Arnold, your original question, I like Bellinger a lot, but I think given the depth that the Giants now have at tight end, and given his contract situation, it wouldn't surprise me if he's not on the team come week 1, because he's on the last year of his rookie deal, and the reported numbers I believe are, he's set to make like $3 million, and it's not guaranteed.
I'd be stunned if he's not here opening day.
I would not be.
Okay.
Just because, he did obviously showed some great flashes his rookie season, but the last 2 years, I don't think you could watch, the whole season and watch his play and feel confident like, oh yeah, the Giants, have a role for him, very much value him as a big part of the offense. Like, he sort of disappeared.
He got to be very inconsistent. His production was not what it was projected to be.
And Manhurts, I think the people in the coaching staff in this building, I think they really value what he brings as a blocking tight end. And he showed a little bit last year that, oh yeah, he can also catch the football. It's not, I wouldn't say his number one attribute, but he is more than capable of doing it. And his blocking is great. He's probably the best blocking tight end on the team.
He is. So Wilson played with him in Denver too.
Yeah, and he also, Russell mentioned Chris Manhurts when he was speaking to the media when he first signed here. So just given, the presence of Theo, now Fedoni, I agree with you on Dulcich and Manhurts. I could be wrong. I hope I am wrong, but I feel like Bellinger could potentially end up being the odd man out come the very end of training camp, especially given his contract situation. I mean, he's now due to make more than anyone else in that tight end room, and by like 3x. So just from a pure just cap crunch number, like if the Giants need to create a little cap space, I feel like that could be a situation where they could look to deal him or something.
The only thing I think I'll say with certainty, and you will agree with this, Theo Johnson's on the team.
Yes, that is the only thing I can say with 100% certainty.
And you know what? Back to what I said a few minutes ago, and I was only busting with you. You can come up with a bunch of different scenarios for that tight ends room with those 5 guys in there. There are probably 3 or 4 different options that hold some logic. And he's presented one, as have I.
Everybody. We
well, that's right. You're not going to. No, you won't. You won't keep 5.
We'll probably keep more offensive linemen in tow than that's going to take a spot.
Sure. There are people who say to me, "Well, can you keep 4 tight ends?" I'm not so sure you can keep 4.
I don't think you can.
I'm thinking 3.
Unless you're planning on having one of those tight ends primarily play as like a big slot, then maybe, but even then I think it's a little bit of a stretch.
And you know what it's going to come down to, Arnold, and we talk about this too every summer. What other position group gets dinged up during training camp, and you're going to need to keep an extra guy in that room, and now you got to steal a body from another room? Well, tight end might be one of those rooms where you're going to have to steal a body. So there's a lot of different combinations here, the way it will work out. I gave you one scenario. He gave you another scenario. There's probably 2 other scenarios that might logically make some sense. It's really way too early to kind of predict that.
Yeah, because injuries during training camp, they happen every year.
No doubt.
And they happen all over the roster. It could happen in the tight end room, or it could happen to another position, as Paul, you just mentioned, where you then need to create a roster spot, and they could look to then cut someone from the tight end room just to make space. So it's really tough to tell now. There's obviously a lot of football to be played before any sort of decision on that front is going to have to be made. But as we just pointed out, like, there are just so many different, variables that could come into play and different variations of how this could end up playing out. The only thing we know for certain is that Theo Johnson will start the season, barring injury, as atop the depth chart.
Yes. Okay, Arnold?
All right, Paul. Keep up the good work. I mean, you're doing great work.
All right, thank you.
When you sleep, I mean, you do that other show. You was on all night, and then you came back early in the morning. I don't know when you sleep.
Sometimes I don't. Thank you, Arnold.
Thanks, Arnold.
I appreciate the phone call. 201-939-4513. Maurice in Montclair is next on BBKL. Hello.
Wow. Hey, how we doing? Happy Friday, gentlemen.
You too, my man.
Friday.
Enjoy the weekend.
All right, thanks a lot. Listen, I want to kind of speed up and get through this, but allow me to just have a minute or two. It might seem a little cinematic, but here I go. The Giants have been getting kicked around for a long time. And finally, everybody, I think, gets the understanding, like, they're building something and they're starting to develop an identity. I heard John say a couple shows ago, listen, Abdul Carter, man, when he's walking around, he just has this advantageous like attitude and this edge to him, and the way he plays, that dog mentality, some of that edginess. Thank goodness for that pick. He does provide exactly what I think the Giants have been missing, and I've been on record on this same program saying that the Giants are scared of their media. I have my own reasons. I'm not going to dive deep into that, but I feel like we've lost our way, and thank goodness it seems to be coming around. Now, with everything that's being said, Brian Daboll sitting at the top of this team as the head coach, if I was him going into the first day when everybody's sort of there, I think everyone being on social media and living the way today how we live as a society knows what's being said about the Giants. We've been the butt of a ton of jokes. So if I'm Brian Daboll and I go in there, it's like, gentlemen, if I'm him, it's like, fellas, I'll keep it real. I shouldn't be here right now. Hey, Brian Burns, they said this about you. Hey, Kayvon, they're saying this about you. Hey, Banks, they said you can't do this. Russell, you're too old. It's about time, and I think we got the right character guys in there. If this team don't win about at least 7 games, and I've heard Bob Papa also say on the Believe in Giants program with him and Carl, they do a great job. He said Giants fans is really just looking for some relevancy, just to feel like we're heading somewhere and that we can get back to sitting where we know we should sit amongst the contenders and the elite. So I really feel like, and I'm going to end it here, I really feel like this team, everybody that's involved, shout out to Joe Shane. I wanted them gone, believe me. I wanted Shane and Brian Daboll after what I saw last year, after all the decisions that was made. It was disgusting enough for me to just say, you know what, end it now. But since these guys have survived that storm, I'm always the type of person that gives the chance. You have to do a lot in order for me to just bail out. Mm-hmm. Any player we get, even if it's not my suggested player, I give him that chance and I ride with him. I'm a Giants fan, so I'm not the type of fan like how you see a ton of other people. They diss the guy, but then they root for him because they want the team to win, but then they don't like him. It's too weird for me. So all I want to do is leave it, and I'm going to leave it here. All I want to do is see that this team carries out a certain play style. When we make first downs, get up and flex. Get up and flex. Like when we do something, act a fool out there. Get these fans in the stands going crazy. And the last thing, when I go to Giant games, and I know it's been tough past 10-some years, but the fans in there, it's so like, even when it's first down, I'm in there, and it's not because of the alcohol I was probably drinking. I'm in there like, get up. And it's first down, though. It's not third down. I know everybody gets excited. Third down, who cares about that? But you go to these other stadiums, and I haven't been, but I'm pretty sure just watching on television, it's like, damn, they going off in there, and the players respond from that. So if Giants fans are listening, when you in the building, act a fool. And I think we got the right character and the right players on the field. So, take that energy and do something with it. Thank you, gentlemen, and I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for the phone call.
Thanks, Maurice.
There's a reason why in Seattle they talk about the 12th man, and in Kansas City they always try to break the sound barrier record for the loudest stadium crowd all the time. Those things are viewed as advantageous to the home team. So I will second his notion that if the Giants crowds can be more vocal and more supportive of the team, it could provide a spark. And what's so bad about that?
Nothing at all. But I will just say on the flip side, for most of the fans' defense, the last 2 years there hasn't been all that much to cheer about. I don't think anyone will deny that. So there's no doubt about it. The Giants,
that's true.
The team needs to give fans a reason to cheer. And Brian Daboll has spoken about this when asked about the fan reaction over the last couple of years. the team knows they need to start producing in order to get the fans sort of behind them. We all remember, it was only a couple of years ago during that 2022 season, fans were electric all season. They were outstanding.
It was fun, man. It was fun.
Quite frankly, since that season, since that playoff run, there hasn't been a whole lot to cheer about. So hopefully that changes this year. And to Maurice's first point about Abdul, and I think this kind of goes for almost the entire draft class, and I kind of said this yesterday, but Abdul, Jackson Dart, Darius Alexander, Marcus Bowe, Cam Scabo, these guys, I guess you can call it a level of just swagger to them. Like, they are definitely all confident in themselves and their abilities. They know what they can do on the football field. They know what they want to do, and quite frankly, what they want to do. Each of them kind of express this in their own way. They want to go out there and whoop their opponent. Like, not only beat them, but beat them badly. And that is a sort of swagger and attitude and edge that we haven't really seen too much of from the Giants in the last couple of years.
Over the years, one of the feelings that I always got, and it's not just in football, but it's in basketball and other sports too, one of the signs that you really like seeing as a coach is after the game is over, if your guys prove to your opponent that they had to really work their butts off to get out of that game, no matter what the result was, win or loss, you want to make them feel, make that opponent, when they leave the court or they leave the field, you want them to know that they were in a game today. You gave them hell. That's the key. Because you do that enough of times, you're going to get some wins. But week in and week out, you want the opponent to feel like when they left, hey, man, wow, good thing we got out of here. Kind of what the Pistons did to the Knicks, right? They made the Knicks feel it. Big time. They gave them hell. And the Knicks had to sweat like bloody murder to escape, and they did. But you got to have great respect for any team that stretches you to the limit.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the season, Mr. Mara, when speaking to the media the day after the season, said, obviously, I need to see improvement next year. But he didn't put, a win number. I know everyone always wants him to put out an exact number of wins that needs to be reached. It's never going to happen. But he said, like, I need to see this team, be more competitive. Be in these games. I mean, how many games did the Giants just get blown out this past season?
Command respect.
Exactly.
When the caller says that we've been the butt of jokes as a team, the organization has, he's not kidding. Command respect. That's the key word. Be respectable again.
100%. I mean, the Giants could go out and win 7 games this upcoming season, and we could all leave the season feeling a lot better about the team. Because even if they go 7-10, if 8 of those losses are very close, coming down to the wire losses, it's going to be hard to be upset about a season like that. Obviously, you would want the number to be higher than 7.
There's going to be a lot of hurt.
Of course.
They'll be better, but there's going to be a lot of hurt.
But if you
don't wish that on me.
But if you're competitive the entire season and don't get, blown out every week, that is going to leave everyone feeling so much better about the future moving forward.
Owen in Delaware, I believe you may wind up being the last caller on Big Blue Kickoff Live today, but thanks for joining us.
Yeah, of course. How you guys doing?
Very well. How are you?
How are you, Owen?
I'm good. I gotta tell you, Paul, you're right. The Knicks last night, oh my gosh. I mean,
my stomach was in knots for about 3 hours. I mean, oh my goodness. It was agony. True agony.
Yeah.
Pearson, we made it 55 minutes in the show without any Knicks talk.
52. We already mentioned them.
I mean,
All right, well,
series over, baby.
Mention it.
Big Body Brunson took care of business.
Paul mentioned
MVP.
Exactly.
Paul brought them up.
Brunson.
Paul brought the Knicks up with the last caller's answer. It was not you, Owen.
And by the way, Brunson did an Eli Manning show a couple of weeks back. And I believe that's still posted right now on Giants.com and the YouTube channel.
Yes,
if you want to go back and take a look at that, because, they were trying to find a new roommate, right, for Brunson. And, well, you got to see how that worked out.
Did you throw your hat into the ring?
No, I did not. Go ahead.
Maybe I should have. I could use a roommate. Anyway, back to the Giants. I mean, we certainly, I'm calling from Delaware. This is where I grew up. It's definitely Eagles country down here.
Sure.
And so my whole life, I got to hear it from Eagle fans. When they won that Super Bowl, I got to hear it from them. Oh, Eli's not the only Brady killer anymore. And then, obviously this year with Saquon, it's brutal. But I think, and I really got to try not to get too excited, so I get excited every offseason. I mean, especially like 2016, 2017, I was young, I was a kid, but still I got real excited. 2021, I got really excited. 2023, I got really excited. But this year, I mean, the Giants pretty much did everything that I wanted them to do. And I think finally they have a strength in the pass rush and no position groups that are like a huge weakness or a hole, which is just, honestly, for the first time, I've been watching the team since probably 2013, 2014. But it's probably the first time I can say that as a fan, which is pretty exciting. With that said, I want to answer you guys a question from the top of the show. So I like what you were saying about wide receiver, but I actually think that I would love, and maybe Lil Jordan is the guy, but I would love another guy on the outside because that gives you more flexibility. I'm sure they'll do this, but it gives you more flexibility to put Neighbors in the slot. And, I'm not a scout, but watching his college, some of his college plays, a lot of his best plays were out of the slot. So,
he could play everywhere.
Personally,
to be frank, he could play any of the three positions. He's that good.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But I feel like that would just give us the ability to put him anywhere on any play and not have to worry about it. So that's my point. Final thing I'll say, then I'll get off. I know we're getting down to the wire here. Is that, the only Giant game I've been to was the Colts game last year, and I was up in the nosebleeds, and the section was about half full. But those of us that were there were pretty rowdy. We were having a good time.
That was a fun game.
I'm not worried.
I remember hearing the fans from the press box.
It was a fun game.
They were very loud that game.
That was probably me, Matt. I mean, I lost my voice in the third quarter.
Love to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we get some wins on the board. Definitely won't be an issue with fan support.
I agree.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Owen.
My dad, when he goes to games, and he would always say a certain game was a 3-day game, and by that he meant that he screamed so loud at the game that he was hoarse for 3 days. And trust me, there were a lot of 3-day games over the years. When you're talking about the 80s and the 90s and those years, there were a lot of 3-day games, great rivalry games against fellow playoff contenders where, oh man, every game was emotional. Every game was scream your brains out, and that's where the 3-day game came from in my dad's lexicon. There haven't been many of those lately, to be frank.
I mean, look,
I get it.
There's no denying that, you want to call it the last, 13 years? The Giants have not been a, perennial playoff contender since that last Super Bowl win.
Yeah,
there have been the 2 playoff appearances, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But prior, in that era of Giants football prior to that, that had the 2 Super Bowls, that had all those playoff appearances, no one ever mentioned anything about, fans at the games being an issue. Because, again, they had good football to root for and cheer for.
Sure.
And I think we are heading back in that direction. We are certainly a lot closer to that, re-entering an era like that now than we were at this time last year. So I agree. Once the team gets out there and to start winning some games, no one's going to mention anything about issues with the fans. The fans are going to get behind this team because of all the things we've been talking about.
We certainly got some
new
players
attitude,
that can pull
the new
for.
identity,
That's for sure.
The new identity of this team. That's what New York Giants football is about. All the Super Bowls were won with a tough, gritty defense that's going to punch you in the mouth every single time they step on the field. And that's, I think, the defense that is now built, that Joe Shane has helped build. So I can't now I can't wait for the games to start. And we still have so much time to go.
See, now do you understand why I hate the offseason?
How many months do we have?
Doesn't matter.
4 months, a little over 4 months.
1 month is too long. I'm all about the season. The off season is not nearly as much fun.
At least it's only we got a week from today. We have rookie minicamp. That's
Yes.
a little bit of action.
Well,
then
they
week,
come in Thursday and they get on the field Friday.
Yeah, so a week from today,
Right.
we got a little action. Then a couple weeks, 2 weeks after that, we get the start of OTAs. That's a little bit of action. Then we get a nice little summer break, and then
veteran
training.
minicamp. Veteran minicamp is in there too.
Well, yeah, OTAs. I include minicamp
and then there's that.
Then we have the little summer
then there's
break.
that black hole in the schedule. I hate the black hole. Nothing happens during the black hole.
Little summer vacation, although it's not actually a vacation because we are still here every day.
Anyway.
And then it's training camp.
All right, before we go, Pearson, what do you got up on the podcast platforms?
So
this week?
we had a Her Playbook go up today, which is with Andrea Hopeland, who works at EA Sports. So that's a cool interview. And then we have Chase Daniel talking about Jackson Dart. That's coming up this afternoon on the Huddle podcast. And next week we have a ton of cool ones. I think we'll have like Kurt Warner and just a bunch of people talking about the draft picks.
All right, folks. So that's where it's all about. Whether or not you're here at Big Blue Kickoff Live, you go to the Giants Huddle. We still got a whole bunch of stuff coming your way. We do not rest here. That is not a good word if you work in this broadcast division. That'll take care of Big Blue Kickoff Live. We will be back again on Monday with another edition of the program.
And we
live
become
at 12:30.
enemies on Monday, Paul.
Well, you're never going to be my enemy. I mean, Pearson's a Celtics fan, folks. In case you haven't figured that out by now, he is a diehard Celtics fan, which is okay. I still like the guy. He runs a great show.
You're all right, too.
Well, I appreciate that. Okay. But just be prepared for the beating that you're going to take in the next 2 weeks. That's all.
Maybe we can do some predictions on Monday.
Okay. Big Blue Kickoff Live is heard every weekday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time for 1 hour. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. As always, it is presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. For Matt Citak, I'm Paul Dottino. We will see you next time, everybody.